Hello, welcome to the fourth in our series of active movement sessions from Connections Neuro and Paces Sheffield. These are active movement sessions suitable for people with movement disorders. So when I'm talking about movement disorders, we're talking about people who have perhaps cerebral palsy, who've experienced a head injury, post-stroke, that sort of thing. We've got a whole series of these videos now. This is the fourth, as I said. The first three behind this one are for upper body movements in a seated position, lower body movements in a seated position, and a sit to stand programme. Today's is all simple standing tasks. If you haven't done the previous ones, I really recommend you go and have a look at them, and actually they're good for building up to this level of this session. This is a little bit more advanced than some of the other ones. Because it does involve a fair bit of standing. So you need to be able to maintain your weight on your feet and move a tiny bit when you're in standing as well to be able to join in today. Firstly, I'll just introduce myself. My name's Jules. I'm a conductor. That means I practice conductive education. Conductive education is an expert rehabilitation and education service for people with neurological conditions, neurological movement-based conditions. Before we get started, one thing I do need to say is that you must be careful taking part in these at home. Unfortunately, I can't be with you to help keep an eye on you while you're doing these sorts of things. I'm just able to tell you what you should be doing. It's important that you make sure you are safe, or that a carer is there to assist you, or a family member to assist you. Please also just make sure that you have the thumbs up from a medical professional to say it's okay for you to be taking part in this level of activity, just to make sure that everybody's safe. So for today's session, we're going to need a couple of bits of equipment, nothing fancy, and all hopefully stuff you have in your home. First of all, for standing. If you use anything to assist you when standing, it's best to use your usual equipment. So if you, for example, use sticks, if you use a walker, if you use a walking stick, then by all means use those. If you're lucky enough to have sort of bars on the wall or parallel bars in your home, then use those. If not, then I'm going to be demonstrating today just using a chair. A dining room chair will do, as long as it's fairly steady. If possible, you might want to ask a loved one to sit on the chair and keep it steady for you, or hold the chair still for you whilst you're doing it. All of the tasks are going to involve a bit of balancing, being on your feet. If you can do that with no support, that's great. But just if you are a little bit unsteady at times, do be aware that you need to have something you can reach for or hold on to during the movements. Okay. Secondly, footwear. Now, I'm doing the session barefoot today. If you can do it barefoot and you're comfortable doing so, as long as you're not going to be on a slippy surface, that's absolutely fine. If you prefer to wear your usual footwear, something a bit more steady or secure, if you've got an orthotic in your shoe or a splint, please use those. Whatever's you're most comfortable, confident and safe standing, please go with that in terms of footwear. But I'm demonstrating barefoot today. And the other thing is that we will need just one little piece of equipment, which we've used over in session one. And I've said it before, I've got just a long stick. If you want to maybe use a broom handle, a rolling pin, anything like that, just a piece of wood, like a reasonable length would be good for you to be able to hold with both hands, ideally sort of the circumference of the inside of your hand if you hold it like that. So we're going to need those bits, but that's everything. One more thing, but you will have come across if you've done the other sessions, is obviously that I speak about what we're doing whilst we're doing it, and I give you a count to move to during each of the tasks. Now, that's part of my usual practice and something I encourage you to do. It's a good way of controlling your movements. It's a good way of expressing what you're doing while you're doing it, and it helps us consciously keep control and guide our movements better. So please do join in with that. If you're non-verbal, try and say it in your head. If you've got someone there with you who can help you to say it, encourage them to say it along with us. Either way, it's a really good way of trying to encourage your brain and your body to connect things together. So if we're ready, I think we should get started. The first really important thing is to get a great standing position. So I'm just, going to move the sticks out of the way, and we're going to try and find a good starting position in standing. Now, as I said, if you're using something to support yourself in standing, be it a walker, be it sticks, what have you, be it a bar, then please do so. I'm going to do the most of the tasks facing forward so you can see my body front on. What would be really helpful if you're able to at home, it might be worth doing these in front of a mirror if you can, to see yourself. But basically you need to make sure that your feet, knees, hips and shoulders are all in nice, straight, parallel lines. Make sure that your toes aren't turned out or in, that your knees aren't together or too wide. Don't have them too wide. So really concentrate on a nice straight position. Also, make sure you're pushing your hips forward and your shoulders back, keeping your chin slightly lifted, not too high, not too low, but trying to keep it up. A traditional standing position, if you were sort of standing to attention, is what we're going for, and either your hands down in front of you or holding onto the support. So I put my feet flat, my back is straight, my head is up, and I stand straight. I stand straight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lovely. Okay, just to get us moving and started, trying to get a little bit of oxygen moving around our body before we begin today. So what I want you to try and do is we're going to take a deep breath in through your nose, closing your lips, and then we're going to breathe out through our mouth. And I want you to just take really deep breaths and really focus on that. If you're able to also lift your arms up and down and you're capable of standing and balancing when you do that, then join in doing that as well. But if not, do not worry, just try and do your best. And if it's better for you to do this in sitting before we start the standing, then by all means do so. So I close my lips, lift my arms up, breathe in. Arms down, breathe out. Arms up, breathe in. And arms down, breathe out. Arms up, breathe in. And arms down, breathe out. And then just take another deep breath in. And then let your breath return to normal. Lovely. Okay. Now, I will just say at this point that any of the tasks that we have done in seated position in sessions 1 and 2 can very easily be translated to a standing position. So if you're looking for a little more, you can try and play around a little bit with some of those. I'm going to just do a couple of the tasks in standing and transfer them across to show you. But please feel free to have a little go at that, being safe and careful and only working within your ability set. So first thing on that note is that we're going to get hold of the long stick. So we held onto the stick or the rolling pin or the broomstick the other week. So one thing to just make sure of is when you're holding on, what you're trying to do is keep your thumb out from your fist. So what we don't want is your thumb pulled under here and getting caught inside your fingers in particular. We don't want that. Trying to pull your thumb out, ideally right out along the top. But if you can just get it around to there, then that's also great. Making sure your fingers are all nicely in line. And one thing in particular, we're really trying to hold your wrist like so. Now, if you're holding support whilst you're standing and you need to keep holding support, just have a smaller item, a hairbrush, a short stick of some sort of pen in one hand and do this task one at a time. But if we can do it without holding on, then that's a really good way to do it as well. So making sure we're standing nice and straight, and I hold onto the stick with both hands. I hold onto the stick with both hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like I said, try to keep those wrists up, shoulders back and head up. And all we're going to do is very slowly, we're going to lift the stick as high as we can and then bring it back down. Now, if you're doing this and you have a reason that it's hard to bring your arms up higher, then don't bring them very high. Even a very small lift, moving both arms while you keep standing is still a really good challenge if your balance is a bit tricky already. Like I say, if you can just do it with one hand, just do it with one hand. Be aware that when you lift this stick, what I don't want you to then do is lean backwards and risk falling over backwards. If anything, just keep yourself slightly tilted forward at the hips, just to keep yourself nice and steady as you do it, okay, to keep a nice position. So holding on, and then I lift the stick at chest height. I lift the stick at chest height. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I bring it down. I bring it down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lovely. One more from the side then. Up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lovely. Repeat that as many times as you like. As I said, even a small movement whilst you keep your standing position, keeping your weight on your legs, is brilliant. By the way, if at any point during this you feel the need to sit down, take a rest, please do. Do not keep standing if you haven't got the stamina to do so. Just pick up and take off where you can, okay? Now, the next thing we're going to do is we're going to practice turning our body in this position. So what I want you to do is keep your feet really stuck still on the floor, glued to the ground in a lovely straight position. And we're just turning our upper body. And what you're trying to do is, as if you're looking right over, I'm looking right at the door behind me, each shoulder, and you're trying to point that shoulder towards the wall behind you, okay? When you do so, remember you're coming back to the middle, and be aware that you're keeping your weight right in the middle of your feet. It's really important to try and keep as symmetrical as you can when you're doing this. I'm going to move to a mirror image of you in terms of you doing it at home. So when I say to the left, I'm actually going to move to the right. But if you just do the direction I'm saying and copy the mirror of what I'm doing, you'll do it the right way. So this time, I turn to the right. I turn to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And look right over your shoulder and back to the middle. To the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then over to the left. I turn to the left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back to the middle. Back to the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, if you need support from a chair or something else as you're doing that, you can just try to twist using just one arm holding on, or you can try and keep hold and just twist as so. Okay, super. Next on our list is, I'm going to pop this down, we're going to step forwards and step backwards. So I'm going to just position the chair in a little bit of a different position so you can see me. So if you need support, please use it, as I've said. These things where we're going to start now moving our feet a little bit will mean that your balance will be a little bit less steady, because we're going to try and take the weight over just one leg. That being the case, please do use support if you need it, but only use what you need. So don't lean heavily on it if you don't have to. Try to keep the weight through your own legs and keeping yourself nice and steady. So the task we're going to do is we're going to step forward, and then we're going to step back. We're going to step to the side and back, and we're going to step backwards. Now, what's really important when we step forward, sorry, I'm going to show you from the side, is that we put your weight fully onto that forward foot. So then we're just going to take our weight onto it and then come back and step back. Similarly, when you step to the side, we're putting our weight onto it and back, and the same moving backwards. So what we're really trying to do is play around with your ability to hold your weight on one leg or on the other and control that and sustain that whilst keeping a lovely straight position. So we'll start with back straight, shoulders up, chin up, feet nice and straight underneath you. And I stand straight. I stand straight. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I step forward with my right foot. I step forward with my right foot. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure your weight is over that foot. Hold it there. And I step back. I step back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Lovely. We'll do it a little faster. Step forward. 1, 2, 3. And step back. 1, 2, 3. Step forward. 1, 2, 3. Step back. 1, 2, 3. And then I step to the side. I step to the side with my right foot. 1, 2, 3. And I step back. I step back. 1, 2, 3. I step to the side. 1, 2, 3. And step back. 1, 2, 3. And step backwards. 1, 2, 3. And to the middle. 1, 2, 3. Step back. 1, 2, 3. And back to the middle. 1, 2, 3. And then repeat on your left side. I step forward. 1, 2, 3. And step back. 1, 2, 3. I step forward. 1, 2, 3. And step back. 1, 2, 3. I step to the side. 1, 2, 3. Step back. 1, 2, 3. To the side. 1, 2, 3. Step back. 1, 2, 3. And step backwards. 1, 2, 3. Back to the middle. 1, 2, 3. Step back. 1, 2, 3. Back to the middle. 1, 2, 3. Really good. So you'll notice even during that, for me, there were times when I had to adjust myself to straighten my body up again. In particular, stepping back to that central position is really tricky, making sure that your feet are in line and in the direction you want them to be. So we'll move on to our last one. Like I say, if you need to stop and sit down, please do. But our last movement is going to be turning a circle in a standing position. And what we're going to do is imagine we've got a clock face and we're turning round to 3, 6, 9 and 12 with our feet. We're going to lead with the leg that is moving first in the direction we're going. So I will give you a quick example. So we're going to lead with this left leg. We're going to go 1 and turn it to 90 degrees and then step 2. And again, 1 and 2. I want you to keep going all the way around if you are able to. And then we would do the same in reverse. Now, if you aren't able to because you need some support, then the best thing to do is to step halfway around. So we're going 1 and 2, 1 and 2. If that's really too difficult still, then simply stepping to the side either way will also be a really good one to do. So we'll try it. But remember, a quarter turn in each direction. So a quarter turn to the side, leading with that foot. And we're really trying to make sure that your feet are going one at a time, following the clock round. Okay, so hopefully you can see my feet doing that. I'm going to come a little forward so you can. So I step a quarter turn to the left, first of all. I step a quarter turn to the left. 1 and together. 2, again, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. And a quarter turn in the opposite direction, a quarter turn to the right. 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2, 1 and 2. And again, when you get back there, correct that standing position. So stretch your arms, shoulders back, head up, back straight, and I stand straight, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Super. Very good. So you'll have seen today there was some quite tricky tasks compared to previous weeks. I would recommend that if you're able to do any of them, really do hone in on one of the tasks I've shown you and try to practice it and improve the precision of your movements when you're doing it. So bringing your foot into place and correctly putting it back, or turning your foot a quarter circle, or twisting your body. Just really focusing in on the quality of your movements. It doesn't have to be big movements. They don't have to be large steps. Little steps are fine, because little steps, if they're good, are really worth doing. So if you find any of that useful, we'd really love to hear from you. It'd be great to see pictures of anybody joining in, or see if anybody's finding it particularly helpful. We'd also love if you have any suggestions about the sorts of things we could be adding to in this series. If there's areas in particular you would like us to focus on, for example, use of both sides of your body if perhaps you've had a stroke, or use of your hands and upper body a little bit more detailed. We can do all that sort of thing if people want us to. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. Please like us, share, follow. Join us again for the next one. Thank you so much. It's goodbye from me, Jules, and from Connections and Paces Sheffield. Bye.